close to the people next to us. So, Sarah, can you tell everyone what your thing is?
My thing is conflict, believe it or not. I love working in the conflict space and helping people navigate their way through it towards solutions.
Awesome. So can you tell us a bit about the clients that you work with?
A range of clients, getting off to a great start here, range of clients really around corporate, so decision makers and executives, to your teams of people, and then right down to not-for-profit and communities. They tend to be people that are able to make decisions and inform the way the outcomes progress. So it might be your HR department, they might get me in, or it might be a board who are struggling with decision making and they need a bit of help.
Awesome. I think that's really important to know the difference between that, because I guess a lot of people, when they think of mediation, they think of family disputes.
I hear it all the time. And can you help our family? We're in conflict. And I'm very happy to say that I leave that to other people.
You're like, that's normal. All families have conflict.
Oh, we do. We do. And just because I'm a mediator doesn't mean I'm always great at it at home either.
So, like I said, we're in Perth here just now, but your story didn't start in Perth. Where are you from?
I'm originally from South Australia.
Near the Barossa?
Nearly, near Clare Valley, which is a wine growing area.
Nice.
Some people might know it. We had very cold winters and very warm summers. But a lot of my time growing up was spent on my mum's family farm over near Port Lincoln. So we spent our time running around the paddocks, chasing sheep and chasing chickens and swimming and fishing. It was such a glorious way to grow up connected to country.
Awesome. So when you were growing up, mediation is not exactly something that teachers are putting in front of you as a career, a career for you to go for. Yeah. What did you want to do?
A really good question. I think I was very sporty when I grew up. So I kind of thought maybe sport. I remember in year 12 really wrestling with what do I want to be when I grow up? Because it was a very small country town. I think that I was never exposed to opportunities. Yeah. And my application at uni was to do design, interior design.
That's a massive leap. So we've gone sport, interior design, and now we're a mediator.
We are, yeah. It is.
All right, connect the dots there. Okay. Where did we go from South Australia? You've left the wine region. I presume you left before you were 18.
I did.
Yeah, because once you've had a taste of that lovely red wine, you wouldn't go. Or I wouldn't anyway. So where have you gone after that?
I ended up doing my second year of university in Darwin. And I wound up in Darwin because my father was living up there. Mm-hmm. And I guess I wanted to get to know him better before I grew up and didn't care about parents anymore. And I also went up there because I was doing anthropology at the time. And I was really interested around native title and wanting to be involved and I guess help empower some of those people that had lost a voice. Yeah. And so social justice was a big part of our lives growing up. Mm. And my dad was a lawyer. And so he was involved in a lot of the big social justice cases that he would take on growing up.
That would be great for what you're actually doing now, because that's still a part of what you do, be with a lot of native title stuff with Indigenous people here.
Life is a funny thing, isn't it? How it works full circle. So I went up there wanting to be an anthropologist, and I still remember a quote from my first ever anthropologist teacher who said, our role is to question the taken for granted assumptions of society. Yeah. So it's really about asking questions, and really the work that I do now in helping people through conflict is helping them understand what are the questions to ask, giving them the confidence to ask those questions, and then gather the information to make better decisions.
Yeah, that's massive, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still in Darwin.
We are.
We're not a mediator at this point, though.
Well, strictly speaking, I was trained in mediation in 1996. Okay. So I've been a mediator now for over 25 years. Okay. And my father was one of the first mediators in Australia. So I'm one of a very small group of second-generation mediators in Australia. And I never went out wanting to be in the same profession as him. And in fact, I probably like, no. Yeah. And the fact that I am now is fascinating. And I feel really privileged because over the years we've been able to support each other.
Yeah.
I've always got a mentor or a supervisor, and he actually does the same for me, and as I do for him. So it changes the dynamic of father and daughter.
Oh, 100%. But on that, where, your dad is a mentor as well as you've learned from him and, all that experience, but you're not your typical mediator.
No.
You're a little bit different.
I'm a little bit different, and I'm quietly proud of being a little bit different. And in fact, I probably relish the opportunity to shake up my industry, and probably get a little bit of that from my dad as well, who never conformed within his industry.
Yeah.
So how am I different as a mediator? I am different because I think my mediation has emerged from a lived experience.
Yep.
So for me, it's not just a tick box process. You follow these steps and you'll get an outcome. For me, I really am passionate about giving people the skills and the tools to better engage in dealing with these hard conversations.
Yeah.
So I invest more in the front end of the work and helping people develop skills and helping people understand more broadly what's happening.
It's very much that iceberg that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
You're helping them with that tip so that, they can get stuff done.
Yeah, kind of. I'll probably flip it around a little bit, because as what we do as mediators, instead of being surface level, which a lot of people will do, I'm diving deep.
That's what I mean. Yeah. You're really helping underneath so that that top level looks fine. Everything looks safe and calm, but really you've shaken everything up and made that calm underneath for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's massive. I think a lot of people can benefit from that. So you're mainly going into corporate organizations, and you work very closely with legal professionals, because I suppose that's a space there.
Yeah, certainly I do. Look, it's so complex what I do, and I really love the fact that I get to work across board with people. So a typical client may include getting called into a corporate team who are dealing with change. Perhaps there's some restructures going on, or they've had some reputational damage. Maybe they're going through court and they need some help with mediation. And generally my approach is a little bit different, because I'll say, let's look at this strategically. What is contributing to this conflict, and how can we look at the systems involved to help get a much more sustainable outcome, rather than just going, what do you want out of this and what do they want out of this? We're diving deep and we're having hard conversations. So that's the corporate space. But I also work in a community space, which I love. So I have spent a lot of my career out in remote Aboriginal communities. And working with people that are probably disadvantaged, lacking in opportunities, lacking in services, and really struggling with how do we as a community deal with these big conflict issues.
I suppose because you've got, especially the smaller communities, if there is an influx of, I guess, outsiders, if there's a mine comes into town, that will really shake things up. That trying to have peace within a community, that's a massive one. And that's not, I always think that it's very important that your work life is nice and balanced, and there's, negotiation and everything's happy and balanced, but you can walk away from that. Your community, if it's all around you, that's massive.
It's personal. It matters and it impacts your daily lives. And there's so many contributing factors, I think, when we see large-scale community negotiations. So it might be mining companies coming in, a lack of engagement in those negotiations, perhaps because culture is such a big part of this. My role is, I'm not young anymore, but a non-Indigenous person working in this space. So I'm very conscious of working with cultural counterparts, making sure we design processes that recognise and value the cultural diversity. And I think that that's a really unique aspect that I can bring.
Oh, 100%. And actually asking what it is that they need and want.
Yeah.
Because I think more often than not, we have people up at this level, whether it's in communities or corporations, that think they know what everyone wants, and they don't. And that's whether it's cultural or corporate. So that's exciting.
It is. I love it.
All right. So we have been in South Australia.
Yes.
We're now up in Darwin.
We are.
We're with Dad, and we have started our life as a mediator.
Started my training. I think I was still studying at that time, and finding my way as an adult, youngish adult, in the wide world, living life, dancing on a Friday night in Darwin and having a fabulous time.
Okay.
And then met my husband.
Yes. And then, there we go.
Yes. Which was fabulous. So he's in the Navy, and we've been together now for 21 years very shortly. So it's been a journey. And I went in, I guess, with my eyes wide open, knowing that he's a military man and that it comes with complications and opportunities. And I've really embraced those opportunities. And yes, it's been hard. We've travelled a lot. We've had to move a lot. There's been a lot of time separation. But I think we're both rather independent as well. And so we've been able to embrace these opportunities.
We were a very strong character, so I can imagine that, it wouldn't be for everyone having to, pack up and leave and go to a new base every so often. Yeah. So where was the best and the worst places you've been? Thanks to husband.
Darwin, I have to say Darwin's fabulous for a lot of reasons. The food is amazing in Darwin. So your access to Asia, Singapore, Thailand, you name it. We travelled, we ate, we lived that lifestyle. And so that was fantastic. And then being able to go camping, so the lifestyle of that, and then having the opportunity to really get to know Indigenous Australia and dig my feet into the soil in Arnhem Land and build those real connections has been a privilege. Yeah. One of the most beautiful places was in Jervis Bay in New South Wales, or ACT, and we got to live on base there, where we would wake up with bush around us, white beaches, 2-minute walk down to the beach, and that was pretty stunning. So that was tough. Yeah,
very tough.
And we lived in Canberra for a while and Darwin off and on. And now we've been in Perth for about 10 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you started your business, Sarah Blake. You are Sarah Blake, obviously, but you started as Sarah Blake as a mediator in your own right about 10 years ago when you got to Perth?
No, yeah. So I started as a sole trader business about 10 years ago, which was, I always knew that I wanted to do this, but I guess circumstances pushed me into it a little bit sooner than I thought I would. But I'm very grateful for that. And for those of you that have started a new business and are on that journey, it's such an interesting learning curve.
Oh, yeah. And it's a steep one.
It is. So it's not just enough to be good at your job. You also have to know how to run a business. And so I was good at mediation, but I've had to learn how to run a business.
Alongside your mediation, though, negotiation is a massive component of what you do.
Yes.
Has that served you well as a business owner in your journey?
I'm really grateful, yeah. I think the capacity to negotiate well, the capacity to be curious. Yeah. So I'm able to ask a lot of questions, even if I'm feeling uncomfortable and, a little bit uncertain. I will lean into those conversations. So it is about living those values. And I think too, boundaries has been really important because I hold conflict space for people, which can be very difficult and fraught with complexities. Yeah. I'm really okay with uncertainty. So it's developed a resilience in me. And so I understand what's okay and what's not okay for me, and I can hold those lines. And I'm not afraid to say that's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's, I've been tested over the years, I think, and that's important too.
They're brilliant qualities, I think, and resilience, negotiation, having your boundaries, etc. They're something that we've all, as business owners, have to, you have to develop.
Yeah.
Whether you've got your own business or if you're just making your way up the corporate ladder, it's lonely at the top, or it's lonely when you're on your own because you don't have that support network. What is your support network?
One of my support networks has been really interesting. It's emerged from a program I was involved with probably about 15 years ago called the Marwa Rom Project, where we engaged in cross-cultural peacemaking and leadership. And it was an intensive event. Once a year we'd head out bush, and by necessity we became very close with our colleagues in that space. And so I have a very small but trusted group of professionals who understand how complex it is to work in a cross-cultural space. Yeah. So we support each other through that journey. And that's been wonderful. And I think because I've had to move around a lot, I've had to be really good at meeting people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. So I've known Sarah for a little while here. She's got no problem with that.
I love it. It's forced me, I think, the moving has forced me to be okay with that. So I can foster those connections. Even if it's a surface level, that's okay for now until you find those real connections.
100%. And that, what you're talking about, moving around, when I first came to Australia, I didn't know anyone. Like, I literally didn't know a soul over here. And I started a networking group for young farmers and young ag professionals. And I think I had 50 people when I started, and there were about 600 when I left that were on the books for that. And everyone's like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." I needed that.
Yeah.
I knew nobody. That was my support network. That wasn't just a job to me. I needed that. And, when you have to move around like you've had to, you don't just want to do it. You need to do it.
Yeah. You need, I've needed professional women as well. So I've really loved, probably over the last 18 months in particular, the opportunity I've had to connect with fabulous women that are just living the struggle, who are unapologetically driven. And I'm so proud to be a part of those groups of people that, this is who we are. This is what we want to achieve. Yes, we're learning along the way, but we're unapologetic about wanting to be successful and wanting to make a difference in the world. So it's not about just, how much money you make, but how can we help make this world a better place? And so those people enrich my soul.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Sarah, this is awesome. So we know that you are an amazing mediator and that is what you do. That is your thing. What do you do for fun?
I have 2 kids. So I have a lot of fun with my 2 boys, a 4-year-old and 8-year-old. If anyone has boys, they will know that there's a lot of farting. There's a lot of, at the moment, armies is a big game. So I'm becoming very good at making noises and making up stories.
Sounds like my husband.
Yeah. So we do that. The other thing that I love to do, that that I'm a gin drinker. So I love any excuse to get together with my fellow gin drinkers and have some good food and just enjoy the conversation. So I love that. And then I'm a beachy girl. So the opportunity to hit the beach, which we may have snuck off to the beach today, which is so nice.
So jealous.
Yeah.
Yes. We have a bit of a gin off every Friday now.
It's becoming that. It is a lot of fun. I may have poached your idea, but
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like gin, there's something wrong with you.
You're probably not in our crowd, I have to say. I'm thinking that a new tagline around Peacemakers Drink Gin is probably where I'm heading, because, one of the great things to come out of COVID was a small group of mediators, and we connected from New Zealand, and there was a few of us in Australia. And every 2 weeks we would catch up with our gin or drink of preference and just talk about our industry and what was happening because of COVID. And those connections internationally have been fabulous, and to be able to nurture those in a way and have this connection through gin or whatever it is, it brings some joy and lightheartedness. So any chance, I think, to not be so serious all the time is a really good thing.
Do you know, like, COVID has been horrendous for so many people, but it's been great in so many ways as well. I think we've realized what's actually important, and personal branding is obviously my thing. I love it. And people are actually starting to open up a little bit more and are more comfortable with, if I'm working with clients, the suggestion that we maybe bring some of that personal stuff in, because it's kind of like, who cares now?
Yeah. I really love that we're making it okay to be us.
Yeah.
And I think that in the past, everything's been so polished and professional, but it's missed this element of this is just us and being real. And part of what I love doing is normalizing the complexities in life and saying, you know what, we all have bad days and we all have conflict that we're dealing with. And we don't want to get rid of conflict, because if we do, we're going to miss opportunities for change and innovation. What we need to do, though, is find ways to have hard conversations safely. And so that's, I think, part of this being bringing our personalities to the table, bringing people to the table. And we are all complex, and just saying that's okay. Let's navigate through that. 100%.
And then you actually realise that you're not the only person that's having that issue, or has the same complexities as you.
I know, because, you think in the workplace and you've got some conflict going on and you start to doubt yourself and you start to feel lonely and, is it just me that's dealing with it? And just having someone to come and say, you know what, it's really normal to be feeling so confused. It's really normal to be feeling frustrated. Let me help you unpack that and say, what might you be able to do to find a way through?
No, 100%. I love that. Sarah, you wrote an amazing book of poems. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I never expected to be publishing a book on poetry. I've written poetry. Well, actually, my father writes poetry, and so it's always been a part of my life. And particularly when I go out bush, and for those of you that have worked in remote community situations, it can be really intense as well. And I'm very passionate about making sure I'm present to my clients and making a difference. And to do that well, I have to stay grounded myself. So I have to be really present. So writing poetry has always been my way to, in a sense, it's my meditation. It's my clarifying. It's my listening to country. It's about me bringing myself into a place where I'm ready to hold this conflict space. So I've always written it. And then my girlfriend, who is a publisher, Karen McDermott, a plug to her, said, put it together. Is there a theme? And so there is. It's called Grounding. It's the business of peacemaking, decision-making and culture.
It's a beautiful book as well.
Yeah, well, we've created a coffee table version of it. So we're going to do a launch really soon. But the photos are actually photos that I've taken over the years.
Oh, wow.
And also a dear friend of mine who I grew up with, Matt Gribben, who we used to grow up on the beach together. And he's got into some beautiful photography. So to be able to have a book, it's me. It's me on a plate. These are the beaches that I grew up in. These are the places where I've burnt my feet in the coals, where I have been dirty in the sand. And so it's got meaning behind it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So that's launching soon?
I'm hoping to do the November launch for that.
Awesome. And we'll be able to get it on Amazon.
You
will. All
yes.
special places like that.
Stay tuned for more. It's very exciting.
But did I hear that you've got pen to paper again for book number 2?
Well, funny story is that I actually started book number 2 before the poetry book, and the poetry book kind of took over. And so, yes, I am on my way to book number 2. And the book number 2 is called Holding Hope, Conflict, Leadership and the Conversations That Matter.
Awesome. And who was that book for?
That book is for people in leadership roles, people who are visionaries who want to make a difference. So you might be on a board, you might be on a not-for-profit organisation, you might be a community leader. It's somebody who is struggling to know, how can I be the best leader I can during these times of confusion and conflict. And I want to give them hope, and I want to say that actually we can hold these spaces and we can be strong leaders whilst working collaboratively with people, and that the conversations that matter are really important, that we lean into them. And so it's a bit of a practical thing too about how we can do that, and to give you the confidence to get out there and do it and make a difference in your community, in your workplace, or bigger and beyond.
That's beautiful. So how can someone work with you? So we can read your book and we can follow you on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yes.
But how can we work on you to really get Sarah Blake in our lives and get all that, crap out the way and get mediated and negotiation down to tea? How do we do that?
So you can get in contact with me by any of the usual means, and we can have a conversation. I always start with a conversation with my clients.
And a gin.
Yeah, and a gin, if you're into that thing. And we generally start with an almost a risk assessment, an assessment of what's going on for you. And that helps us navigate what is the right service to help you move forward. So it might be on an individual basis, a group basis, or an organisation basis, and we plan that out. So it's really bespoke process. But I'm very excited because hopefully very soon I'll be launching some online learning. So my portfolio of online learning to make it more accessible for people to do bits and pieces.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I've seen so many people going into that model where, it can be quite costly to work one-on-one with someone that you want to. And it might not always be that you need that level of support either. So that's really exciting that you've got this
I'm so excited
online program coming along.
Taking all this knowledge from my head and sharing it with people. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited for it too. Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
your websites, sarahblake.com.
smblake.com.
Awesome. And usual channels?
All usual channels, I am out there.
Excellent. And I'm going to put them in the show notes as well. So if you want to get in touch with Sarah, all the links will be below.
Say hi.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.